Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carl Sawatsky, and on behalf of CTC Train Canada, I'd like to very warmly welcome you to today's webinar on this Easter Monday for many, but I'm glad we have quite a few who've been able to join us for this webinar on an introduction to Microsoft Teams. So with this very recent release of this new product, it has been accompanied by quite a bit of promise from Microsoft as something that can change how people work together, change how we collaborate, and change how we share our work with one another throughout the organization. But with every new product comes that question, what's in it for me, and how can my organization benefit? So those are just two important questions that this webinar will help answer for all of us. To help us with that, we have Greg Lutes, who will be presenting this webinar. Greg's been a senior instructor with us here at Train Canada for over 13 years, and within our organization, he's really known as the guy, the guru to go to with everything Microsoft Office related. So he's certainly well equipped to help us answer our questions, anything that we may want to know about Microsoft Teams. So without further ado, I'll pass the word over to Greg. Greg, please help us and see how we can get the most out of Microsoft Teams.
Thank you, Carl. Let me first just kind of share my my application here so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. But there's a new application from Microsoft called Microsoft Teams. Now, of course, there is a app version. There is also a web app version as well. And unlike the other products, there actually really isn't a difference between the two. In fact, sometimes it's hard for me to tell which one I'm working in. This is the application, and it's pretty typical, you know, for a lot of the new apps nowadays. Navigation in the app is on the left-hand side, and as you click on the different parts of the app, you know, things on the screen obviously change. But I'd like to start off with exactly what is Teams. And why would anybody want to use this? When I first saw SharePoint and started working with SharePoint, I really saw the potential for SharePoint. But one of the biggest issues that I saw was that even though to be an owner of a site and to manage a site, even though you really didn't have to be technical, you did have to have some understanding of how websites work and how they should be laid out and how they should be designed. Not to mention the different web parts, or they now call them apps for SharePoint. But you know, all the different apps that you could add in SharePoint, you could add it, but then you had to configure it and add different things to it and tailor it to your business and to the way that you work. And like I said, you know, I saw the potential of SharePoint, but I also saw the complications of it. And then being an instructor myself and consulting on different situations, you saw a lot of the same issues and a lot of the same common problems. And you know, my biggest suggestion to people is, you know, go take a webmaster course, understand exactly, you know, how to lay a site out and all the different things that should be there. And, you know, in a perfect world, that's great. You know, they go take a course and they learn all about being a webmaster and running a website. But it comes down to time, you know. Do you have the time? Do you have the resources to be able to do stuff like that and perfectly design all these SharePoint sites and project sites and you know, task sites and you know, wiki sites? And again, you know, I can go on and on about SharePoint. I love the document management side of it, and this does not really replace that. But I think what it does is it's what SharePoint should have been, or maybe not should have been. Maybe that's not right. I think that this is a stopgap in between, to be honest, because what this does is this provides users with all the things that they've been asking for. A central place to manage my meetings. Yes, we have Outlook, but there's things that go along with those meetings. There's things that that relate to that meeting. Files, is another one. And again, SharePoint's great. It's fabulous, but now we've got OneDrive. So is it on SharePoint? Is it on OneDrive? Where is it? And where do we put it? We want to work collaboratively, so we take a look at OneDrive, but again, it's up to the user to figure out how to create file folders and how to manage their files and manage them properly so that they can find the things that they're looking for. So once again, you're kind of relying on the fact that somebody understands how to file stuff properly. With Microsoft Teams, it allows them to group the information, and I guess that's really what it does, is in a nutshell, if you want to kind of describe it in a sentence, Microsoft Teams organizes the collaborative information that you use between your teams, between your coworkers. And that's where it kind of starts off, Microsoft Teams. It's the first thing that you do is you create a team. Within that team is a channel. So think of a team almost like a topic. Here I have a team that's called New Products, right? And in a sense, that's my topic. Within the topic, within the team, and again, these would be a group of people that deal with new products. I can go to more options, and I can add a channel called General. I can add a channel for a new product that we have, a brand new camera called the M300. And if you want to know about that product, you head to Teams, and this is the team that can answer all your questions and provide everything that you need for the new product, M300. Or if we have, new marketing programs coming out, I could create a channel for the new marketing program. And if you have any general comments or information or anything like that, then you head to General, and this is where you find the general information. Within the channel, you have what are called tabs. Think of tabs like apps. It's the best way to describe them, and I really don't quite understand why they call them tabs. I mean, I do and I don't. But I think that apps better describes what these things are. So when I add a tab, I'm adding a application. I'm adding extra functionality. And some of the stuff, honestly, guys, I wish we had the rest of the day. Some of the stuff is actually really, really cool. Excel, I don't have to explain that one. PowerPoint, same thing. Planner, really neat for scheduling, things like that. Word, again, hopefully you've used that once or twice. OneNote, absolute favorite application on the planet. But I don't know, Teams is starting to take over. SharePoint, YouTube, again, I don't think I have to explain most of those. Reich, yes. This is project management software. Really neat stuff to work collaboratively, to have timelines and deadlines, stuff like that. And yes, SharePoint does this, absolutely. Can you create a project site? Yes, but that's the whole thing, is that you have to create the project site and set everything up, whereas with Reich, it's ready to go. It's as if you're working with project management templates. And I'm not saying, build a house, move the office template, more the structure, more how files are shared, time is managed, calendars are created, all these things that you need, it's created for you. Hootsuite is social media management. So you got Twitter, you got YouTube, you got Facebook, you have Yammer, you have all these different social media sites, and Hootsuite allows you to basically make a dashboard of all of these sites and monitor them. Smartsheet is a SaaS platform for automating all the collaboration that you have, so that people aren't handling things 2 and 3 times manually. with the collaboration, it just automatically happens. And again, honestly, I wish I had the rest of the afternoon. There's just so many things that are here. Visual Studio, that's the team services in Visual Studio. If I have any programmers in the audience, if not, don't. I don't want to say don't worry about it, but all of this stuff is just really, really neat to play with. Poly is for polls, but they're smart polls. It monitors your conversations, the activity that you have with users, and you can create happiness polls or job satisfaction polls, and every once in a while it kind of fires these things off. Again, there's so much here that I could talk about. But that's a tab. The tab adds extra functionality, like maybe a website that we all go to. You know, I can go to, say, Life Hacker here. Neat little site if you haven't been to it before. But, you know, again, there may be something on the site that I want my team, I want my users to take a look at. So rather than giving them a link, sending it to them in their email, it's all together. When the new guy gets added, right, the new guy from marketing, he gets added, we just tell him, look, go to the channel, click on General, catch up. Here's all your conversations. Here's different things that we've been talking about and discussing. Here's all the files that you may need, that you may want to work with. A nice little wiki for all the little different questions that people might have about the new marketing program, or about the marketing department in general, or how we launch new marketing programs, or all the stuff that a new person would want to know. We could direct them to a wiki page. And as you can see, at any time, I can add, I can update, I can create. There's that plus again. So if I want to add extra functionality to this, then I can click on Add a tab and add new or extra functionality to it. So you create a team. Within the team, you create these channels, General and 30. I can view the team. I can add another channel. I can add members. I can leave the team. You can edit the team, but it's just to change the name. And of course, when we're finished with the team and the product's been launched, or we have no use for this channel anymore, we can delete the team. And I'm not logged in as an admin. I'm logged in as just a regular everyday user. In fact, I've logged in as Karen. So your profile shows up on the bottom left-hand side. Presence is there, so I can switch my presence. I can change my picture, you know, and you got a handful of other little things. I mean, honestly, nothing earth-shattering that's going to change your life, but neat. I love the idea that my meetings are all in one place. And yes, this is an app. It's an app that's available for Windows phones. It's an app that's available for Android phones and for iPhones, of course. So again, I understand it's duplication between Outlook and this, but a lot of people think of email when they think of Outlook. And even their default app is set up that way. So when they click on Outlook, they get dropped off in their inbox. With this, my meetings are there, and a lot of times, meetings and these team channels, they go hand in hand. It's a meeting that we're having about the new product, M300. So I can go to the meeting, all the files, the conversations, everything that we've been talking about, M300, is all in one spot. And this doesn't really leave SharePoint out in the cold at all, because the way that we started to work with this is when we put files here, these are not official files. These are files that we're collaborating on. These are drafts. These are not final copies. Eventually, they become final copies, and that's when we store them in SharePoint. That's when we can put them in a library, apply retention information to them, retention policies, document policies on them, and that's when they become official documents. Here is where we can allow the teams to just collaborate, to chat, to create different channels, to add different members. To add a member is very straightforward, very much like most online applications. You type in the name of the person that you want to add, and magically, there's Alan, the VP of Corporate Marketing, and I can make sure that I add Alan to new products. Now, depending on familiarity with social media, if I go to chat here, this is where you can chat to different people. So, if I want to talk to Julian or, any of my other people that are here, here's Kelly, right? Kelly's away right now, but I can click on Kelly and there's all my conversations with Kelly. Here's all the files that we have shared in this conversation. I think this one's kind of neat. If I want to see where Kelly is in the organization, as far as hierarchy, I can see who she reports to. All the activity that I've had with Kelly. So, obviously, we haven't really been chatting at all. But I can go to conversations here and I can start a conversation with Kelly. Now, of course, that's like any other chat, straightforward. The neat thing with Teams is that you can do the same thing with Teams. I can come in here, and right now there's no conversation about M300, but I logged in as Karen, and I can say something to Kelly. To do that, I throw in an @ symbol, and actually, yeah, I'll do it to Alan here. And I can put in, please make sure you upload the new marketing information about the M300. On Alan's end, Alan would be able to go to activity, and Alan would be able to see on the left-hand side all the different mentions. So anytime that somebody throws in an @ symbol, types in Alan's name, any of that activity would show up here, whether it's in SharePoint or whether it's in Teams. So in activity, this shows me all the different mentions that people have used. I can click on the different mentions and actually jump to that mention and see what they're talking about. The mention does sit here. I do have a filter though. So if I just want to see who's mentioned, who's replied, who's likes, who follows, or what I've liked, what I've followed, right? Any replies, I can kind of filter it out. Because obviously after using this for a while, you're going to want to be able to filter some of these things out. The other really neat part that I found with this is the chat, but more importantly, you can add bots. I'll click in the search, and right away, this constantly comes up, discover bots. So even if they can't remember exactly what to type in, they still have discover bots here. I can click on discover bots, and this shows me all of the different bots that you have available. And again, I wish I had more time with this. I could show you some really neat stuff, but I added in Hipmunk, right? So I can chat with Hipmunk, and I'll show you the extent of our conversation. All right, I said, I asked him for flights to Vancouver for today. And he said, look, where are you flying from? So I said, from Toronto. And it says, ready to jet? I'm looking for one ways. So I said, okay. And he said, look, give me 2 minutes. And then he says, all right, here's a whole bunch of different flights, right? Tells me how many itineraries, the whole bit. Tells me, look, if you're looking for a specific airport or whatever, right? And then it shows me a nonstop flight, number one least agonizing. I can see the flight details, sort this by the cheapest, only show WestJet. And of course, you got these little things here where I get to see right the next one, and the next one. Not bad for a little chatbot. I kind of like it. And what I did, or how I did it, is I clicked into search and chose, to discover a bot. There's Kayak, very similar to it. You've got quite a few of these, and obviously you have to have a reason to use these ones. I was goofing around with Summarize, and I wasn't quite impressed with that one. Didn't quite do exactly what I wanted it to do. But yeah, some of these you just kind of have to have a use for it. If I click on Growbot, I can add this one. It tells me all about it. Fun way to encourage people, give people, it works by tracking keywords like kudos or props. I can do this for specific channels. Say, yeah, I want you to monitor the new products. And then the Growbot is available for the new products teams that I've created. Tells you all about it, to give somebody recognition, right? All I have to do is mention the Growbot, person's name. So again, at Growbot. And I find that some of the features takes a little bit to work. So because it is an application, it has to synchronize and all that stuff. So when you add a bot like this, give it a few minutes, and generally the bot works quite well. Alan, right, for all the great info today. And then it, sends this to Alan. Alan goes to his activities, and he sees that, somebody has given him kudos for doing whatever it is. I'll do another one for, say, Kelly. So, Robot goes to and of course not picking up Kelly. I think I just have Alan in here. So I'll do it again to Alan. There we go. And it still has a lot of the social media stuff in it. So things like, right? I can like it. Right. Same thing, same idea. And I'll go back to chat here. The other neat chat bot that's here is T-Bot. There was another bot that I was reading about, and I'll have to figure out what happened to it. whether it's still in development or whether they have released it, but it's called WhoBot. And that's a neat one for an organization where you're trying to figure out who does what. So you can ask this bot basically who does what, and it tells you who you need to contact in order to help you out with something. So yes, this thing called T-Bot. With T-Bot, T-Bot is to help you work with teams, right? It's Teams bot. So if I want to know how to do something, like how to add a team, it goes out basically like an interactive help file and finds exactly what you're looking for. Tells you exactly what to do. Right. So yeah, this is helpful. Thank you. Right. And it responds. How to upload a file. Now, when you're in a conversation, you have tabs depending on exactly who you're chatting with. So with Hipmunk, for instance, it's strictly just a conversation. When I'm talking to T-Bot, there's a little bit more to it. With T-Bot, I not only have the conversation, but I also have help, different help articles, some getting started stuff. I got an FAQ. Videos are also available, so I can take a very quick product tour, which the first time you install Teams, it asks you to go through the product tour. And then they've got all these other videos that you can watch to kind of help you out. Private conversations, meeting, productive conversations, the teams, the channels, and then just kind of boring stuff, more release notes and things that have changed. The release notes are important. If I have any techs out there, any support people, the release notes are extremely important because with a lot of the Office 365 products, what we're starting to see is they are adding features, they are updating things on a very regular basis. So going into the release notes gives you a bit of a heads up as to what they've added or what they've changed in their products. Some of the stuff is minor, little stuff. Other things, kind of major stuff. So with the T-Bot, taking a look at the different release notes, kind of gives you a heads up of some of the things that have changed. For instance, team owners used to be capped at 10. For a channel, you could only have 10 team owners, 10 people that own that channel. Now they bumped it up to 100. Which incidentally is the number of members that you can have belonging to a team. So if it's possible that there's more than 100 members belonging to a team, you may want to start to break that up. With a normal conversation, like if I click on Kelly here, normal conversation with Kelly. So I can click in a message, still in the meeting. Change the font. I can choose a file that I can upload, and I can either grab something from my my OneDrive. I can send that out. And then, of course, Kelly can work on it, do what she needs to do with it. And then, of course, that shows up in our files. I can see where Kelly is in the organization, all the activity that I've had with Kelly in the channel. If I go back to the conversation, again, it's pretty typical, paperclip. You do have the different emojis and stuff. So If you like or use these things, then there you go. Same with GIFs. GIFs. You got a bunch of these different things that you can use. Stickers is, I guess, is a new one as well. You have different ones that you might be familiar with. Some of these stickers, you might be familiar with them because they Google Hello, or LO, sorry. Google Hello has a lot of the same stuff. So again, if you find that stuff interesting. And then something that is actually useful is the last button is creating new meetings. So here I can create a meeting, the location, all our different rooms show up, and I got my start time, my end time. It shows me that I'm free, I got nothing planned right at that moment. I can add some different details, different attendees, because I'm chatting with Kelly. It assumes that Kelly is invited. I could select a channel that we're going to meet in and say, yeah, you know what, let's meet in new products and the M300. And I could do that for, for 2:30. There's Karen going, and you know what, might as well invite Alan as well. Fill in my meeting title. And schedule my meeting. So my meeting shows up in the conversations. I have one of those little 3-period button things on the end, and when I click on View Meeting Details, it tells me all about the meeting. If they don't have Microsoft Teams installed, then it uses Skype for Business to help facilitate the chat. If they do have Teams installed, then the chat is done through Teams, which kind of might sound confusing, but using it, I haven't found it to be confusing myself, because it's just two different needs. It's two different reasons for me going into the apps. Skype for Business is, I need to talk to you right now. So I see that you're there, right click, I start chatting with you, whatever. Or if I'm working on a project like this, then I may want that conversation kind of open so everybody can see the conversation and see what we're talking about. Whereas I find the Skype for Business is more of a quick, very personal, not to say that we don't have group meetings, but the group meetings would be scheduled. They would be scheduled very much like this, and then even Teams is going to use Skype for Business to help facilitate the meeting. So it kind of circles back to Skype, which I find makes it less confusing for the users as far as trying to decide what it is that they actually want to use, Skype or should they be using Teams. If it's just a one-off, then either or, it doesn't matter. But if we're getting together, if we've actually planned something, then it kind of forces you, well, not kind of, it forces you to use Skype for Business.
Greg, can I interject with a couple of questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. Christopher has asked that he'd heard that the files in Teams are still in a rough draft mode, and so once they're finalized, will there be a quick way to move them to SharePoint from within the Teams interface?
Yeah, the Teams interface interfaces with your Windows Explorer shell. and your OneDrive. So if you're using OneDrive to manage the final files, then you can easily drag and drop into OneDrive. If you're not using OneDrive to manage your files, then what you can do is you can add that library to your Microsoft Explorer shell and then just have the user drag and drop. But I mean, to answer your question very quickly and shortly, yes, there's an easy way of doing it. There's a couple of easy ways of doing it, and both applications, all three applications support drag and drop, so you'd be able to drag and drop from and to any of the applications. You could also create a bot as well that once the document has gone through a final phase and a final approval, something like that, then the bot could automatically move the document based on tags and based on content into the proper library.
Okay, great. And is Teams also, is it linked with Microsoft Exchange for Outlook integration?
No. And I'm surprised by that because Groups is. But that's not to say that it won't be integrated in the future. I have found it's been very difficult to stay on top of some of the Office 365 products because of how much they're changing on a weekly basis. Like it's just incredible. Even as of last week, there were changes that they made to Microsoft Teams that even changed my presentation today. So as an instructor, it's a little bit challenging. So is there going to be integration? It wouldn't surprise me. So I would watch for it. Teams is very, very new. It's still very much in development. So I would watch this one. They seem to be adding things very quickly to this. So yeah, I'd watch for integration into Outlook.
Okay, good. And last, is Teams for internal teams only, or could external entities such as clients, customers, or vendors, could they be included on the team?
No, currently this is strictly for internal users. But once again, I kind of see that as being very short-sighted. This is a phenomenal product. Microsoft has just come out with such a scheduling product that satisfies that need, that allows you to use outside vendors to set up schedules, to do time cards and punch sheets and things like that. So yeah, once again, watch for this to allow outside users. I could definitely see them doing that soon. Right now it doesn't, but I would not be surprised if they open this up.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that. I'll let you get back to it. And yeah, thanks for the questions, folks. Keep them coming.
The web version of this, I just want to show you what the web version looks like. So I'm just going to share out my Internet Explorer here. Okay, so now I am logged in as Kelly Kraut. So you can see my picture changed. And these are the teams that Kelly belongs to, which is just one. So yeah, she didn't belong to the new product team. There is a chat message waiting for her. So using the online app, as you can see, it's extremely, extremely similar. Navigation's on the left-hand side. I can search. I can click on, my T-bot that I was just talking to and asking questions to. And it looks and works exactly the same. When I click on my teams, Kelly only has access to one team, but here's my one team. It's in my favorites. I'm in the general section, right, of my new marketing program. I can fold it out and see if there's any other channels, which there's not. but I could see them. And if I needed to create another channel, I can click on the 3-period buttons here, and I could add a channel. I could put in the channel's name, and this will be Summer Marketing Event. I'll just add that brand new channel. It doesn't take any time at all, and eventually we get the channel. And it already has the different sections. Files, the wiki section, and of course I can click on my little plus, and I can add anything else that I need. You know, a scheduler, YouTube, add a website, a video that I want them to take a look at. That's what Stream is, or maybe a BI dashboard. I'll close that. I'll come right back here. Any questions whatsoever about any of this stuff?
Yeah, nothing else has since popped in as of yet, Greg.
All right. So I showed you how to add a channel. Down at the bottom, obviously, this is where I can add another team. I choose Add Team. I click on Create Team. And this is actually how the application starts. So when you start the application, first thing it wants you to do is create a team. So I can get in here and call this Kelly's projects. This is where all projects that Kelly manages. Fingers aren't working. Will exist. Private, only team owner can add members, which would make sense in this case, or public would be more like a new products channel. So I can say, no, this one's private, invite only. I hit next. And here I can add in Karen Burge, right, our business strategist. And I can also add in Alan. So this is what general looks like before the first conversations. I can add people, create more challenge, or open up the FAQ for teams. So this is not the FAQ for Kelly's projects. That would be the wiki. If people have questions about Kelly's projects, the team, it's not the FAQ. That would be in wiki. I'll switch apps again, and I'll switch back to my team application. Back in my team application, it shows me that I have activity here. When I click on activity, it lets me know that Kelly added me to the team, Kelly's projects. And here, I can create more channels, but I can't add a team member because I'm not an owner. If Kelly was to make me an owner, I would be able to come in here and see the exact same screen that Kelly has, where Kelly can add additional members. I'll go right back to my teams here. For the application itself, for the team application itself, there really isn't a lot to play with, which for all of you that have been working with systems and working with software for a very long time, you have noticed our options are narrowing and narrowing and narrowing. So where once we could, tailor all kinds of different things for the application to do, so much so that you would just get lost in how many features there were, to quite the opposite, where I know I'm quite surprised how many features there aren't. So if you do want to change features for the application, you click on your profile picture, and in your profile picture is where you can change things, like your availability, your picture. You can also see different things that you've saved. For instance, different chats. Right. Remember that hipmunk that gave me the flights and all that? Remember that guy? Let me just see here. Yeah. I could save, I don't know, maybe I'm better off to take a look at what I sent to Kelly. So yeah, anyways, I can save a message. Save this one. Oops.
Greg, for some reason, we're just seeing a gray screen right now.
Oh, shoot. Sorry.
I think you might have switched.
Yeah, I switched screens. I'll fix that. Yeah, you guys can see everything now.
Okay. Well, that's showing my intro slides, not your screen share.
No, I just got to flip back to the application.
Okay.
And
there we go. Good. Thank you.
There it goes. Now you'll be able to see everything I do. So yeah, you save stuff, and then once you save things that are important to you, then you can go back to your profile and see those things that you saved. But back to the application. To customize the application, you click on your profile, and I could change the theme, dark, high contrast. So for accessibility, anybody with accessibility issues, vision issues, start getting them to use the high contrast themes. There is a Windows high contrast theme. There are also application high contrast themes. If you haven't seen these, do yourself a massive favor and get familiar with those, especially if you are supporting anybody that has any visual challenges. How the application starts, right? So I don't know about you, but that's usually one that annoys the daylights out of me. You get all these applications that want to start up with Windows, right? So I can say, look, no, you're not doing that. Open the application in the background, again, that way it's not intrusive, it's not popping up in front of you and drawing over top of other applications. And this is one that usually annoys people that use Skype for Business or Skype. When you close the application, doesn't actually close it, it minimizes, so you actually have to close it. That's what that is. So I can say, no, once I actually click the X, that's it, kill the application. How it handles notifications. So personal mentions, the channels, shows up a little banner in the bottom right-hand corner, just like an email. That banner that shows up for email, same thing. So yeah, messages, sound, everything. I'll click back on my profile. That was notifications. Language is what it is. You switch to languages. You can get a list of keyboard shortcuts. I don't know. I'm a keyboard shortcut kind of person, so I think this is cool. If you're not a keyboard shortcut kind of person, don't worry about it. They do make you a little bit faster. They are quite convenient at times. Cut, copy, and paste, right? Saving, printing. Good keyboard shortcuts to know, but if you're not really into all that stuff, I wouldn't worry too much. Eventually, we'll probably just be able to think it and it'll just happen. Hopefully my train of thought doesn't waver. That'd be awful. Help, another good one. That's also in here too. About, so you can check the version and all that stuff, and obviously check for updates. And as I said, there is a mobile version, so it's cute that they gave you the little link there, but you'd have to have a mobile application, download the mobile application. Like you'd have to have a mobile device to download that. So this would make more sense if I was using the web version on my phone, and then I could download it on the app. Here, I have the app, so, and this is a Windows computer, so, yeah. Sometimes certain things just don't make sense in different areas.
We do have another question that's come in, Greg.
Yeah, sure.
So Annie was wondering if you can search for other teams or public teams to join. So perhaps, I guess, if you're in a large organization, there's several ongoing teams within the organization, can you search these out or see a directory of them and ask to join?
Absolutely. The different ones that you belong to show up as soon as you hit Teams. So the moment you click on Teams, there's your teams. But if there's any teams, public teams, that you are not part of, then you can click into the search and you'd be able to easily search those different teams as long as they are public teams. If they're private teams, then you're not going to be able to search for the private ones, which I know that sounds kind of bad, but if somebody creates a private team, it's usually private for a reason. And generally that reason is because they really don't want other people not necessarily knowing about the channel or knowing about the team. You'd have 900 teams kind of showing up in a panel, and it would just be chaos. And I like the idea of out of sight, out of mind. Sometimes people see things, and just because of their position in the organization or their position in relation to other people, they may decide that they need access to different things that they really shouldn't have access to. But because they're a manager or because they're whoever, they should have access to it. I think probably the best life lesson for that for me, certain people shouldn't have access to things no matter who they are, was one morning we came in and the phone lines weren't working, and this is going back years and years ago. But one morning we came in and the phone lines weren't working, and the CEO was in early, and for some reason, we're not sure, he thought he could fix the phone lines. So by the time we got there, he had most of the wires pulled out of the PBX. So we had to do a lot of punching down for a while. So that was a lesson learned. He had access to the server room, he had access to the code, and if he didn't, okay, the phone line still would have been down when we all got there, but at least we wouldn't be spending the next 2 hours punching down lines. So, lesson learned. And I feel this is the same thing. You can search for the ones that you have access to. You can't search for the ones that you don't have access to. And I'm actually okay with that. Good question, though. Very, very good question. Any other questions about Teams, Microsoft Teams?
Yep. There are a couple others that have come in, Greg.
Awesome.
Well, this is interesting. What's the difference between Microsoft Teams versus Slack? And I'll let you reply, Greg, but we've also last week published a blog post that goes into that a little bit deeper, so I'll post a link to that post as well. But yeah, definitely, I'd love to hear your take on that one.
Yeah, let me start off by saying this, and I'm not saying that Slack is better. I'm not saying that Teams is better. We are a Microsoft product partner. However, we teach, lots of different products that are not Microsoft products. And when it comes to the instructors, there really isn't, and I apologize if there is any Microsoft people out there, but there really isn't a loyalty to Microsoft. We're instructors and we teach lots of different products. So sometimes, yes, there are better products or more complete products that are out there. And through my experience, sometimes those are not the products that win out. Those are not the products that the public takes and runs with it. And a lot of times it's a mystery as to why a certain product wins over another product. It just happens sometimes. But the difference between the two, Slack, yes, you get more options, you get different options. There are different things that you can do with Slack, but I find that what Microsoft seems to be doing, and I really agree with this, is they seem to be taking different products, stripping a lot of things out of it, and streamlining the product. Just honestly speaking, I've spent quite a few years as an administrator, as a manager. I've spent quite a few years consulting and rolling things out. And you see what works, you see what doesn't work. And honestly, there really is a pattern, there really is a formula to some of this stuff. And one of the things that I really have noticed is that if you take a lot of the options away and you streamline the application so it only does a basic few set of things, chances are people will tend to use that product more. If there's a lot that you can do with it, if there's a ton of settings, if there's lots of different features, no matter how cool and how neat those features are, unfortunately, the features just don't get used. Again, as an instructor, I could spend a week teaching people how to use Word, and to the point that some of the stuff would really surprise you as to what you could do with it. But the problem is that some of it is complicated, some of it is time intensive. There's just so many features that some of these products have been inundated with that the users have no idea. And if it's out of sight, if it's out of mind, if they have to go somewhere specifically to get it, chances are they're never going to use it. Give them a button, they're going to click on the button. You hide the button, they won't click on the button. And I know that I'm oversimplifying it, but as far as the differences between the two, yes, you get lots of bells and whistles with Slack, but I find that Teams is integrated into SharePoint. Teams is integrated into Link, and remember, I'm not saying this because of our affiliation with Microsoft, but I have found that when you have nothing but Microsoft products from end to end, there are minimal problems. The moment that you start mixing in other vendors and trying to write software that will communicate with Outlook and communicate with this and communicate with that, you are now holding yourself to the mercy of the developers, the mercy of either your developers or even worse, contractors that you've contracted outside. So the moment that anything changes, the moment that there's an update and something is rewritten, you're now relying on your developers to get you back up running again. And, if you got a ton of money to spend and a ton of time, then yeah, go for it. But if not, I have just found that biting that bullet and just accepting the software for what it is, going totally Microsoft for end user products, sometimes it really helps to simplify things, and the user adoption happens at a much, much faster rate. But again, everybody has their own personal preferences. There's software that I prefer, and there's systems that I prefer, and in different situations, I would use it. In different situations, I wouldn't. So just as a general, yeah, Slack's got some pretty cool stuff. But Teams, it's a Microsoft product, and it's already integrated, and it's pretty simple to use. Questions? Any other questions?
Good. Yeah, thank you for that. That was excellent, Craig. Yep, nothing, nothing else yet, so I'll let you continue.
I think that's that's pretty much it for the software itself. The rest is really up to what you want to do with it and what your users want to do with it. Always take a look at software and make sure that the software fills a need. Don't deploy software just to deploy it. Don't deploy it because it's neat, it's cool, it's new. Make sure that when you deploy something that there's a real need for it. And if you want this to be successful, then pick a handful of users, train those handful of users how to use it, get them using it well before you launch this thing, and let them be the cheerleaders behind it. Let them be the ones, the advocates that say, this is what you should be using and this is what you should be doing. If you just roll stuff out en masse and you don't have a set of power users, and I'm not talking about IT, I'm talking about normal, everyday users, a representative from each department that have been turned into power users. When you launch stuff like that, it is much more successful. So with something like Teams, grab a group of people, create a bunch of teams, really hone your skills with it, really hone the different channels, hone the different teams, put just some incredible information into these channels so that when you launch it, there's material there. There's stuff that is already there for the users to experience and to use. If you release, whether it's SharePoint or anything like that, and it's at its bare bones, and they watch you develop it, it's a bit like watching the behind the scenes of a magic show. You know, that flash, that bang, it just doesn't have the same effect. You know how it's all done. You've seen them make mistakes, and it discourages the users. So when you launch stuff like this, train a handful of users on how to use it, create a bunch of different channels and a bunch of different teams that people can start using right away, fill it with interesting information, fill it with chats and conversations and files and wikis that you've already created so that they can look at these different channels, look at these different teams, conversations, the way things have been set up, and follow that example. To launch this with no teams, no channels created would be a massive mistake. And again, it goes back to just basic development of applications. If you don't streamline the stuff, if you don't make it simple, if you don't make it easy, the users aren't going to use it and they're not going to gravitate toward it. Users hate change. They hate new stuff. And the only way that you can get them and sell them on it is with a hook. And the hook is to have things in here that they need, information that they want, and make it easily accessible. But it has to be there at launch. If it's not there at launch, then they're going to see this as another useless application. Very much like OneNote. You know, if nobody sits you down and really shows you what you can do with OneNote, you don't get it. I didn't get it. And I'd be surprised if anybody did get it if nobody really explained it to them. But knowing what I know now about OneNote, I couldn't imagine my life without OneNote. And Teams, I think, is going to be very similar, but in the collaboration world. I've already started to see the benefits of using Teams internally with other instructors and other consultants. We've been able to, especially when it comes to knowledge transfer, it's just been incredible. I've really enjoyed it. We've been able to create one-stop shops for different questions and different things that we have issues with. So take a look at Teams, set these things up, set up the channels, start working with it, and then if it's your responsibility to roll this out for the organization, then make sure that you have stuff in there. If you have access to this, play with it. Create your teams, create your different channels, really build stuff up, and then at some point start to invite different people to work within Microsoft Teams. But make sure that you've got stuff in there so when they hit the team, there's things for them to look at, examples, and they get a feel for what exactly this is used for. If not, they might not get it, and it just might pass them by.
Good. Well, thank you for that. Great tips to get started, Greg. I have one other question. So our time has elapsed, so I don't know if we can handle any more than that. So maybe just a quick reply from this.
Yeah.
Jose was asking if you can integrate Microsoft Project with this tool. Or pass info from Microsoft Project with Reich. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can use Reich to help you manage your projects. As far as the teams go, there is a little bit of integration with the teams, but because Microsoft has Microsoft Project Server, and there's also the Project Web App, I don't see much integration with this. I see this as an either or. You either want to use Microsoft Project, or I would use something like this. Because with Microsoft Project Server, there's a lot of overlap with this stuff. But I think, my personal opinion is that Project is a big animal. That's a big piece of software for a really, really, really big project. If you're doing something like an event that you've always done all the time, every year, eyes closed, no problem, this is definitely what you want with Teams. If it's not so time and task oriented, then I would use Teams. But if you're looking for a schedule, if you need to know delays and things like that, if you're really looking for that project management stuff, an old saying, right tool for the right job. Teams is great for collaboration. It's great for those small projects or projects where you really don't depend on a timeline or need a timeline. The moment that you need scheduling and timelines, that's when I start to take a look at Project.
Okay, excellent. So I think we need to wrap it up there. Thank you very much for that, Greg. I'm sure you gave all of us a lot to think about and what to consider when implementing this, and certainly we see the value of getting some training, some direction on that. Train Canada doesn't, as of yet, have a publicly scheduled course on Teams, but if your organization is rolling this out and you need something developed for you on a custom basis, delivered to your organization privately, well, definitely give us a call and we can see what we can do for you there. So thank you very much, everybody. Concludes today's session. Please keep in touch for future webinars, new courses, and we hope to be with you again very soon. Thank you and have a good rest of the day.